Where do Newcastle fans go now? Because this is what we're talking about now. You heard Simon moments ago, and Simon, you've told it the way you think it at the moment, as only you can do. And I go with that. Newcastle United's arbitration hearing with the Premier League, which was designed to resurrect a takeover led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, has been adjourned until the start of next year. It begs the question, is that it? Is it over? What do the fans think? The host of the NUFC broadcast and podcast, Steve Wraith, joins us live this morning. Steve, good morning. You heard Mr. Jordan take us into the show today. Where do you stand on this? Is it over?
I don't believe it's over. Morning, guys.
Morning.
Look, Simon is a journalist, and he's somebody who gets it. You're a journalist, as in a broadcaster, a journalist, somebody who goes on to talkSPORT, talks a lot of sense at times, but when it comes to Newcastle, I'm afraid you're absolutely clueless. You come on your radio channel to get hits and bites, and Newcastle fans give you that privilege. You did the same when you were working at the Observer, Simon. You upset a lot of people by writing controversial stuff, and then that job went south. I mean, this job could go south if you continue to rile Newcastle fans, call them gullible and clueless. It's absolutely embarrassing as somebody in your position to come on and call us naive for travelling to London and protesting. Were you calling Manchester United fans naive?
No, I was calling their behaviour appalling at the time when they broke into the stadium. And let me just correct you on a couple of things, Steve. I don't say anything for clickbait. I'm not interested in clickbait. I say what I mean, and I mean what I'm saying. It might well be wrong, and you might not like it. My job at the Observer was 16 years ago. I wrote 20 articles, and that's what I did. I didn't write things to upset people, and the majority of people are upset with the establishment, which need to be upset. Right. What I made was an observation about what you guys are being fed by certain people, because I think you as Newcastle's fans deserve better. I think you support your club like every set of fans. You have the right to dream big, but you also have the right to be told the right things. So with the greatest will in the world, Steve, the guys wanted to put you on as a pre-record. I wanted you to come on live to have your opinion, to be able to challenge me, irrespective of the fact that most of your fan base over the weekend piled in with abusive comments about me, which you were liking. So I'm a very respectful person, but I'm also a very straight-talking person. So let's call things as they are. I do not believe the Newcastle fans were gullible for coming down to London. I believe that there is a fool's errand. Yeah, I do think you're naive. I think you're listening to Amanda, a person that's calling you guys on, that doesn't even turn up at the function herself and doesn't even offer you support to get down there.
Side of the deal. I have contacts on both sides of the deal, right? You say PIF have walked away. PIF are in contact with Newcastle United on a regular basis, Simon, something which you don't highlight, which because it suits your agenda against Amanda. You were very rude to Amanda, I felt, at the weekend. I felt that you. No,
I was rude to Amanda the previous week, not after the weekend.
It suits your agenda really to pick off things. I don't sit and like your tweets, Simon. I don't follow your tweets.
No, you didn't like. No, you didn't like my tweets. No, Steve, listen. You didn't like my tweets. You liked the abuse that I was getting.
I'd like you to come on our show and speak to Newcastle fans rather than hiding away on talkSPORT and just saying what you want to say.
Well, I don't hide anywhere, Steve. With the greatest respect in the world, mate. You were a pre-record. And I've asked the producer for you to come on live. I was asked to do
a pre-record, as Amanda was asked to do a pre-record, I'm led to believe, on Friday.
I want you, Steve, I want you guys and Amanda Staveley on the show. I want you on the show. I don't want you as a pre-record. Well, I want you to have your opinion.
And Steve, instead of who might have done what and why, you're on live. Tell me why you... No, Steve, listen to me now. Tell me why you... as one of the most prolific voices of the fans, tell me why you don't think that the Saudi deal is dead.
It's because PIF are clearly still there. Amanda is still there, the Rubens are still there, and PIF are still there. And I think it doesn't matter how much cajoling and winding up that various people like to do, various things have to be adhered to and followed. And I read Simon's retraction, if you want to call it, later on in the Evening Chronicle. They covered it, saying that, well, I didn't really mean to call Newcastle fans gullible. And
I did. I did mean to call them gullible. Yeah, well, because I do think some of the fan base is gullible.
You might have to take it up with the Evening Chronicle because you're quoted directly as retracting, not calling all fans gullible, just certain fans gullible.
Well, of course, the ones that are buying into every aspect of it. Now, let's go to your point. Let's go to your point, Steve, right, rather than throw mud at me and tell me... Hang on, Steve. Let's go to your point about PIF, Steve.
Jim's question was, why do you believe PIF are still there? Well, I do believe that they're still there.
Right.
I do believe that the takeover can still go ahead.
Okay.
I do believe that the CAT case has got a major part to play in this moving forward. And I think that we're embroiled as supporters in something we know very little about. And I'll hold my hands up. I'm not a legal eagle. I've not spent years at the bar. But I do trust Nick DeMarco, who I personally feel will win the case for Newcastle. I think there's a lot of stuff.
And he's Ashley's lawyer, isn't he? The problem is, Steve,
under the Premier League carpet, and I think that there's a lot of people who are pals of pals behind the scenes who are playing a media game and backing each other up.
I think this is the crux of it, Steve. You need transparency in this matter. And as I said earlier, neither the buyers, whose challenge was led by Ashley, nor the Premier League were willing to provide all the relevant information needed for the panel to make a decision. And that's forced the adjournment. Now, that's got to change for this to move on, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think essentially, though, that this is a very clever game. And I think that Keith Patterson from NCSL has done a fantastic job in raising this other case, because this is something which is going to be a power play. This is going to come into this over the next couple of weeks. I don't think this is the last time you guys will be talking about the Newcastle United takeover this week on this show. I believe that we will get a date for the CAT case. And as Keith Patterson has always said on NUFC Matters every Friday night, he has said that the CAT case will play its part. And if the CAT case is before arbitration, that's going to play a huge part in this takeover deal. So
well, let's assume you're right, Steve, right? And let's assume that everybody has an agenda. Let's assume that the Premier League are corrupt. Let's assume that the Big Six are overly influential. Let's assume that COVID stopped it last year. Let's assume that the WTO aren't right about the piracy issue surrounding the KSA. Let's assume that BN, let's assume that Sky, let's assume that the BBC, let's assume that a whole raft of American broadcasters, let's assume that the Italian broadcasters are wrong about piracy in Saudi Arabia. Let's assume that we're all wrong about Mohammed bin Salman contacting the government to intervene on a Saudi deal that has nothing to do with the state. Let's assume all of that. Right? How do you look at the landscape and suggest that the Premier League aren't appropriate to look at issues surrounding piracy when there is clearly piracy surrounding Be Out Q, which broadcasts from Saudi, of which Saudi have done nothing to stop? Why would the Premier League not want to do this?
You're mentioning piracy, but because nothing is transparent, nothing is out in the open, nobody can say that it's piracy that is...
Okay, well, let me ask you another question, Steve. Let me ask you another question. If there's transparency required, why is it that neither side want to disclose anything at this moment in time? Because I'm willing to wager you that, first of all, the Premier League don't have to disclose anything because it's not them that's trying to join something. It is an outside group trying to join the Premier League. And it's incumbent upon them to prove the issues that are being raised. So who's got the agenda? I've got an agenda against Newcastle. The Premier League have got an agenda against Newcastle. The Big Six have got an agenda against Newcastle. What is the purpose of this so-called agenda?
Where do owners and directors tests come into it, I guess, is the big question for me, Simon. And
agreed.
If Amanda Staveley, Mirdad, anyone from Saudi and, let's say, Jamie Rubin all pass owners and directors tests, and then, the Premier League then come back and say, well, yeah, you've passed your tests, well done.
But Mohammed bin Salman is the controlling influence. He's the chairman of the PIF.
The problem
in owners and directors tests.
Steve, the problem in all of this is that unless a line is drawn under this of some sort, then it's going to detract from the main theme that should be at the forefront of Newcastle United fans.
Which is the best thing for the fans.
Minds. And that should be the season ahead and how they get behind Steve Bruce and how Newcastle progress in the Premier League. Is that not the priority?
I was at York City on Saturday, and I'm going to Doncaster on Friday, and I'll be at Rotherham on Tuesday. Nothing stops Newcastle fans' loyalty, but I tell you what, loyalty will be sorely tested if the Premier League don't allow this takeover to go through, and we're stuck with Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce.
Steve, do you think that Mike Ashley's having it on his toes as well? Because Mike Ashley's got 19 million quid of Saudi money, which he will be using in part to fund this arbitration. And whilst we're all busy looking at an arbitration that won't happen just yet and a takeover that may not happen, Mike Ashley is not being questioned about how much money he's going to spend on Newcastle. He's not being questioned about the way he's running. Everything is deflected
now. People are asking, where's the money, Mike? And you're going to have to invest.
Good.
He's now going to get the pressure from the fans.
Well, that's
but
good then.
Me, 3,000 fans were bought all the away tickets for Doncaster. believe you me, will be very vocal on Friday night, Simon.
One last thing, Steve. Do not mistake my intentions about calling out people and getting it front and centre with being disrespectful, because I call a section of your fan base that are buying into every single word that you're being told gullible does not mean that I'm A, clickbaiting, or B, being disrespectful.
Simon, a final word from me, Steve.
I never feel if I'm liking a tweet about you, Simon, that I'm agreeing with against.
All right, mate.
Steve, here, I'm just seeing many messages coming in here. What would you say in a sentence to Michael, who's a Newcastle fan? Good morning, Jim, Simon. I love the show. I'm a massive Newcastle fan, but why are we holding on to hope? The deal was dead in the water the moment the Saudis pulled out. And he's a Newcastle fan, Steve.
He's going to say that because some people will read the headlines, but they don't read the story, and that's the problem. I'm at the coalface here, and I can tell you on both sides of the deal that this isn't over yet. I wouldn't give people false hope. I still believe that it's still got a chance of going through. I'm sure we'll talk again, gents.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.